Watch out, Blue Bloods. Make way for the New Bloods. DeLuna Coffee adds to their Blue Angels collection with their Fat Albert blend, a classic combination of Guatemalan and Brazilian beans. It is truly their roaster's choice. And hey, check it out. K-Cups of it, along with Voodoo and Red, White, and Brew, are buy one, get one free. So go check it out over at DeLunaCoffee.com.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Azan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. DELUNA. Coffee, 2 F's, 2 E's.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Use that promo code WARCHANT15 when you head over to DeLunaCoffee.com. Don't forget, they're back. The bundles, the Warchant bundle, coffee and chocolate. 3 great items. Pick your favorite, but you get all 3 of them. Wake Up Warchant tumbler, a Palafox Place bag, 12 ounces of the coffee, everybody, 12 ounces of gold, and then 1 tin of chocolate-covered espresso beans. It's like over $55 worth of goodies for $40. Because who loves you? Ed, Brett, and Courtney. They love you. DeLunaCoffee.com. Warchant.com. Ultimate Seminole sports source. Football season, spring football season, at least, Corey. Getting ever so close. Later on today, we'll speak to Derek Ray, the GM, general manager of Florida State now. Figure out what that's all about. How do we get to this point in life where there's now GMs for college programs, things of that nature? That's going down later on this morning. Stay connected with us. I think Corey will probably have a full blow-by-blow transcript of it, so you don't want to miss that. We're getting you ready, everybody. March 5th, spring football kicks off. Corey Clark, how are you?
Good, buddy. When is that press conference later today?
It was supposed to be 1:30. I think they bumped it to 10:30 in the morning. So,
Oh, boy. All right.
11:30. I apologize. 11:30. 11:30.
Okay. All right. Okay.
A little better?
All right. Good looking out. Good looking out. Appreciate it. Yep.
All right. Very well. So, yeah, we'll have that. Derek Ray coming from Corvallis, Oregon State, so don't want to miss it. Let's get to it, Corey. We got lots of not lots, but we got kind of 2 parts of the show. We'll wrap up basketball here momentarily, but then towards the second half, we talk a little bit about the offensive line as part of our ongoing preview series, getting you ready for spring football. That said, a shout-out to Coach Sue and the Lady Noles. They were victorious on Tuesday afternoon, taking down Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. Good for them. That was a good win. Meanwhile, closer to home, Florida State taking on Clemson on Tuesday night, and backs against the wall. I don't want to count them out. Stranger things have happened. But gutty performance from Leonard and his guys on Tuesday night. 81-80 win over Clemson. Heavy-hearted. He challenged these guys. They're battered, they're bruised, and then apparently one of their team managers got some real somber news with a diagnosis with a cancer diagnosis. So Leonard challenged these guys. They came out real strong in the opening minutes of the game. Clemson kind of steadied the ship. They came back out strong to start the second half, and then they closed the game strong. Raekwon Evans, an absolute beast. Cameron Fletcher, nice flashes. 81-80, Florida State hopefully turning some sort of proverbial corner. I don't know if to call it a big-time win, Corey, but obviously much, much needed and very powerful sort of performance out of them on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a big-time win. Clemson's not very good. That guy's got to be close to his job must be tenuous at best. Because Florida State didn't have Caleb Mills on Tuesday night either.
Yep.
So they had, you could argue their 4 best players didn't play. 3, probably their top 3 for sure. And Polite, Osborne, and Mills. And then you also obviously didn't have McLeod again. So you were down 4 guys, and you give up 28 to Raekwon Evans? Yeesh. That's a rough loss, but it is a great win for Florida State. Like you mentioned, the kid's name, and I'm going to call him a kid. He graduated from Stetson in 2020. He's a grad assistant on the Florida State team. Is Jared Lynn. So yeah, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's just awful news. Not just so heavy-hearted for sure. I think he told the team before the game, or they found out before the game, either Monday or Tuesday. But either way. Very heavy-hearted. And to go out and play like that, not just because of that, but also because, yeah, man, you got absolutely embarrassed the last time you were out on the court. And I know it's easier to play at home. That's fine. But, man, they at least played with some, like I said, some vim, some vigor. Yeah, man, that's a great win. Any win for this team the rest of the way is going to be considered a great win because they're just, they didn't have more talent than Clemson on Tuesday. It wasn't close, really. But they managed to score somehow 81 points. They looked good doing it. They had 8 turnovers. They shared the ball pretty well. Everybody contributed. And, yeah, that's a great moment for Raekwon Evans. He hits another game-winning free throw. He got the and one, game-winning and one. Yeah. So that's the third. I think that's the third game winner he's had this year, or 2 game winners and one sending it to overtime. So yeah, man, good for him. That's a great moment, and they needed it. You see, I mean, they got to have other guys step up. That's what Hamilton's message was after the North Carolina game. You can't keep looking to the bench. Those guys can't play. They're not in uniform. The guys on the court have to go make plays, and Raekwon went and made plays and made all his free throws except one. Dude was 12 of 13 from the line. Looking at Florida State here, 25 of 30 from the free throw line. Okay.
Strong to quite strong.
I see what you're doing. Yeah, Fletcher was 7 of 8, and Raekwon was 12 of 13. And that's another thing, man. Our man Cam Fletcher coming on.
Yes.
Coming on. Had 16 and 10 against North Carolina, but that, a lot of those points were empty because it was, down 40 when he scored, and it was still impressive. It was good to see that he was competing like that. But then in this game, which was nip and tuck the whole way, my man had 17 and 8 and 2 steals in 27 minutes. Still not great on defense, still learning some things, but man, he's showing some juice. He's showing some bounce. So that was really good to see. And it's just anytime you can end a losing streak, man.
Right.
It's a positive night. Not a good team they beat, clearly, but a win is a win is a win.
Yeah. 81-80 the win again. That is now the 5th victory for Florida State this season by 1 single point. It is tops in the nation. So shout out to them.
There you go.
Gritty win. I mean, towards the end of the second half, it was a 2-point game, I think. And, man, one of those frustrating things, I think one of the most frustrating things watching football is when you need the ball desperately and you cause a fumble, but you don't get it. That's just the most deflating thing. It's like, oh, ball, but you don't get it. They were down by 2, and, man, I don't know, for the sequence, they must have had 4 attempts. They must have had 3 offensive rebounds to try to tie that game up. And instead of having a tie ball game, they end up falling down by 4 because on the back half of it, Clemson gets fouled, and that P.J. Hall kid knocked both of them down. But then Raekwon makes his free throws, and then, later on, I think maybe 2 possessions later, finally he gets that drive to the basket, draws some contact, and gets the and one 3-point play the hard way. Now, they didn't play great defense. They played great defense on the first inbound attempt that Clemson had. But, man, Clemson had a real clean look to win that game, and it bounced out. So we'll take it. We're not complaining by any stretch. So 81-80 the win. I don't want to get too ahead of us or too far ahead on my skis. But is this a kind of thing? Hearing in the postgame, the way Raekwon talked about, they need to kind of stop feeling sorry for themselves. This is a program that's built on toughness. They had to play tougher. Just slumps are kind of things teams go through. He said a lot of good things, and, I in no way, shape, or form making light of, someone's health struggles. But sometimes, sparks, some sort of, motivation outside, something greater than you can kind of maybe spark a team. Now, listen, they got to play Duke on Saturday, so I guess we'll know quickly and soon enough, right, Corey, if they somehow can maybe salvage the season. Now, we're not thinking they're going to make it to the tournament, but if they can use this and go into Cameron and upset them on Saturday, the Dukies, Krzyzewski left in the middle of the game, apparently. Everything kind of changes. I don't want to be so, prisoner of the moment, but kind of a little bit rejuvenated now with basketball, man. A little bit rejuvenated, at least more so than I was 48 hours ago.
I mean, okay.
All right, let's take this hill. Let's go. Take this hill with me.
I'm happy for you, buddy. Yeah. No, there is. If this current incarnation of Florida State goes and plays at Duke, if it's the same available roster, there is 0 chance. I don't know what the number will be, but I would take Duke. They look, and it's not because what was different about Tuesday, and what I do want to see on Saturday is, you're going to be in a hostile environment, you're going to be heavy underdogs, and you're going up against a hungry team because they're fighting for a 1 or a 2 seed in the ACC regular season title.
And you beat
so they're
them.
they're going to come in completely ready to play. Just compete, man. Play hard, play confident. You're going to lose. You're probably going to lose badly. You just look, man. You don't match up well athletically. Yeah. Cleveland matches up athletically, but he's looked a little off to me. And he actually had a nice game on Tuesday night. But he hasn't looked to have the bounce or the spring, especially against North Carolina. And then in this game, my man played 30 minutes and had 1 rebound. He's usually a pretty good rebounder. He had 1 rebound in 30 minutes. So he's got to figure out a way to rebound, or they're going to get killed on the boards if Duke misses. And then also, Wyatt Wilkes played 30 minutes, and he had 2 rebounds. And he had a couple threes. That's good. Good job, Wyatt. But when you're playing Wyatt Wilkes and Prieto, big minutes, and Gum, who's trying his hardest but is hurt, are not fully healthy, it's almost an impossible matchup. I mean, that P.J. Hall kid, he's a nice player. He's not the guys that Duke has. So it's just going to be it's a nightmare matchup. They got out rebounded pretty significantly in this game against Clemson, and that was at home against Clemson. Now on the road at Duke, that's a whole different ball game. So no, my point being, you're not going to this isn't going to kickstart anything. It'd be a lot better if they didn't have the hardest game on the schedule right after this to see. But if Mills even if Mills is available, your front court is just decimated, and it's going to be hard to compete against that bunch. But go compete. Hey, stranger things have happened. Somebody gets hot. Maybe Raekwon goes for 48 in that game. I don't know. Goes for 60. Maybe my man he unlocked his Tony Douglas or something. Let's hope that happens. But either way, just getting a win and playing hard and kind of bouncing back from that debacle on Saturday was really, really good to see. And it kind of tells you what they're up against. Because Florida State, I thought they played hard almost the whole game. Like I did. I thought they came out energized. Yeah. I thought they came out focused. I thought they did play with confidence the whole game. They still gave up 80 points at home to Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when they play hard and they're focused and they have some belief, they just are not equipped defensively with the guys they have out. Polite and Osborne are terrific defenders. McLeod's a rim protector. Caleb Mills is a nice one-on-one defender. With those guys out, they just are not equipped athletically to compete with the likes of Duke, especially not in Cameron. It's probably going to get ugly, but hey, at least they will. At least we hope they compete. They are not going to win, but maybe they'll compete and play hard. It's a tough bounce back game.
Also, a little bit of a bummer. I thought your exchange with Norvell after the 0-4 start was going to be kind of the barometer, the gold standard of journalists poking the bear, setting them on the straight path. Memphis won 6 in a row now after Anthony's little tirade. That was a tirade. I mean, especially compared to like what Norvell did. So maybe next year, no one did anything with Ham. None of us got up Ham's rear end. He figured it out himself. We appreciate that, Ham.
Well, also Ham takes it a little better.
Yeah,
Penny's. You can tell Penny's used to being kind of a pampered star athlete and not having to answer tough questions. You know what I mean? Like Leonard's been doing this he's been a head coach for almost 40 years now, and had some losing seasons because he's had to coach some bad programs. He's used to a little criticism and hey, what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that. You can tell Penny's still learning a little bit about that on the job. But you're right, man. They bounced back. Good for the Tigers. Sorry, it popped up on my timeline, everybody. While I'm trying to find something for us to talk about. You know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about football, offensive line. Are we back to the proper caliber of talent and performance and production on the offensive line? Corey and I will talk about that, mainly Corey. That's how it usually goes. Next on Wake Up Warchant. Corey, kind of in a good mood. I don't know who is operating the Warchant Twitter, which you all should be following. It's just Warchant. The handle, it's not just Warchant. It's everything you could possibly want, but that's the username. It's Warchant. Somebody tweeted the story about
I think the third installment of our spring football previews, focusing on the offensive line. The tweet goes, "Youth and inexperience will no longer be an excuse for FSU's offensive line in 2022." I'm like, woo, we're cooking with grease now. I like that. The weird thing, though, is I did that video with Austin and Tom Lang. Check it out, everybody. They've only got like 3 quote-unquote upperclassmen. Lyles, Gibbons, and Bless Harris. Everybody else is a sophomore or younger. So they are still kind of young, but they do have lots of experience. And far be it for me to defend this staff. I'm not trying to hurt feelings, but like I don't want to be that guy on the front lines. I'm somewhere on the hill, but I'm just not the front of it. Your thoughts when you think about the offensive line? Like, are youth and inexperience, are those two things that aren't going to be problems in 2022?
Well, I mean, everybody on that line has played a bunch of football, right? Like, anybody that will be playing, we think, will have played. Like, Armella is a big-time prospect, but we're not expecting him to start next year. So you're talking about who? The Maurice Smith, Robert Scott, Darius Washington, guys like that have been, even though they're young by age or by class, I mean, they played a lot of football. So, yeah, inexperience certainly shouldn't be a factor, because I have to imagine everybody that starts a game for Florida State on the offensive line in 2022, that is season opener, will have started, at least 10, 12 games in their career?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's experience.
So is this the most optimistic you feel about an offensive line? And listen, I know we're 200 some odd days away from fall, so maybe we should sort of qualify it with, I guess, spring. But is this maybe the healthiest they've been? And I use healthy as kind of like a metaphor. I don't mean it literally, but so are they in a better place than they've been on the offensive line in some time that you can remember?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Don't you think that? Like, you look at it and you're like, number one, we believe in the coach. The coach is doing a good job. These guys are getting better. Hopefully they're healthy. Hopefully most of them can go through a spring practice. That would really be something abnormal for this school if, like, the offensive linemen were actually healthy and able to practice. But, yeah, they've got, 2 pretty big-time transfers, at least good transfers. Bless Harris might be another one. That's a third. So you've got these older guys that have played a lot, and then you've got these younger guys that have played a lot. I think, and you don't look at any of them, the 7 or 8, 9 that you think are in the mix, and be like, oh God, that guy's that's going to be rough. That guy just can't do it. Like Maurice Smith at the end of this last season couldn't do it, but I also think that's because Maurice Smith was beat up.
Yes.
But look, man, he might not even start. Yeah. He probably won't start. They didn't bring in the Lyles kid to back him up. But you've got, not only do you have a starting 5 that will probably be better than you've had in a long time, you're going to have a second 5 that will be better than you've had in a long time, long time, I think. So, man, all of it is good. They're not going to be, again, nothing extra special. It's not going to be a championship offensive line, but it will not be a disaster. It should not be a reason you lose games. I feel like the last 4 or 5 years, maybe not so much this year, but the years before, the offensive line was a big reason they lost games. I don't foresee that being a reason they lose games, except for maybe, 1 or 2 at most. So, they should be as good or better against most defensive lines they play.
So you think they lost games last year because of the offensive line?
Clemson, Clemson. Okay. Specifically Clemson, and then to a lesser extent Florida. I don't think they blocked very well against Florida. I think Jordan Travis had to make some crazy things happen. They didn't run the ball especially well against Florida, but I'd say Florida and Clemson were the 2. And Jacksonville State, and that's not a joke. Like, you're a Division I offensive line. You should pulverize Jacksonville State. And they did not. So you could maybe throw that one in there too.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's levels to where you want to be, with 13 being where you want to be and 2018 being absolutely where you don't want to be. So last year was probably closer to 18 than 2013, but we're thinking that this year will be closer to 2013 than 2018. That's a good
way to judge it.
I just wonder, because there's got to be that noticeable level of kind of greatness with Florida State. With a lot of it too is just I mean, they held up well on blitzes, but Jameis was just really good at throwing the ball when teams would blitz. But, like, you could watch that team play, and you're just like, man, we're going to be okay. It doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 7. A lot of that was the quarterback, obviously, just like, we're going to be all right. It's going to work out. And I mean, part of it, like, subconsciously was you knew the offensive line was going to hold up. I'm not saying we're there, but I just wonder how will it look? Like, will it be we'll notice it's better. Is it going to be bigger running lanes? Or we just think it'll be a better pocket for Jordan to kind of flourish in?
I'm all the above, right? All the above, obviously. Good lines do both well. But I think what you really see is sometimes it happens, man. Some defensive linemen are just good. I mean, Aaron Donald treats all pros. Not that they're going to face Aaron Donald this year, but sometimes a defensive lineman is just too good on a specific play. But there were too many times where it felt like Jordan Travis had no chance. The lineman, it wouldn't be one consistent guy, but in pass protection, it's not like it. You remember a lot of times where Jordan Travis just stood back there and stood back there and stood back there. Right. It was a lot of, look at my first read, look at my second read. Oh, God, I'm about to get sacked. Let me run. Or, oh, God, I'm about to get sacked. Let me throw this ball away. There was a lot of that. I think if you can give him that extra second, literally 1 second, second and a half, to keep guys off him, we'll really know by then what kind of quarterback Jordan Travis is, where he's not having to run for his life, where he's not having to feel pressure around him at all times because he doesn't. Not that he doesn't trust those guys. I think he does, but some games they didn't give him a reason to trust him. But, Clemson, yes, you're going to have a hard time blocking Clemson. Everybody does. But you don't have to look like a high school team blocking Clemson. And I just thought in that second half, that's what they looked like. They had no answers. They had nobody that could do it. And that needs to change. Hopefully it will. I mean, Clemson's good, clearly, especially on the defensive line, but they shouldn't annihilate you. You give out scholarships, too, to some pretty highly rated prospects. You shouldn't be annihilated by their highly rated prospects. And I think, I think it's almost hard to talk about. You know what I mean? Like every year for the last 6, we've gone into the year hand-wringing about the offensive line with good reason. In this year, I don't think it's going to be a strength of the team necessarily, but it should not be a weakness. It should be a competent, maybe even slightly good offensive line. And man, I can't. It'll be hard to write about it. It'll be hard to talk about it because last year it was getting there at times. But I think, to me, pass protection is probably the one I look at. To answer your question very long-windedly, the pass protection is what I'll be looking at the most to see, like that LSU game. Okay, are they flying off the edge and he has no chance, no time? Are those guys getting pushed back in his feet every time he tries to step and throw? Or is there an actual real pocket? What stood out so much about that Miami play, the 4th and 14, wasn't just the throw and catch. It's my man had time. Now, they only rushed 3, which was a mistake, but he had time for that play to develop. He had time.
Did it develop though? It was so on schedule. Like I can't recall it in my mind's eye. But I feel like he took this. It wasn't like he was waiting 4 or 5 seconds for somebody to break open. Like he knew where he had to go with that ball, and like it was boom, boom, boom.
But he didn't have to throw it early, he didn't get pushed off his spot. Like he stood where he was supposed to stand, watched it develop, and threw it. And yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't a 6-second play. But man, how many times when the last 4 or 5 years when Florida State's had a 3rd and 14, or in that case a 4th and 14, would you be like, man, he's not going to have enough time to. They're not going to have time to get down the field that far for a first down. And in that one they did. And I thought that's what stood out a lot about that. And that's what, imagine seeing that for a whole season or for the majority of a season. That would be it'd be a refreshing change of pace, man.
That'd be a provocateur. But I wonder, like, who did we beat last year that was, like North Carolina, I guess, or even Clemson fans. Like, were they saying that kind of stuff about Jermaine Johnson? Like, if only we had some more time. But this guy just keeps getting in our dude's face mask from the jump. I just wonder how much of, I don't want, not the whole, tipping your cap to your opponent, but I guess it kind of is tipping your cap to the opponent. But, nobody enjoys – I can't think of anybody that Florida State played where we're like, I bet their offensive line is getting fed, all sorts of great meals and slaps on the back after what they did against Florida State. Like, nobody nobody overpowered Florida State's front four. I mean, nobody ran the ball that well. No quarterback really, ate them alive, other than like Malik Cunningham for a half. And isn't it part of football in 2022, just with everything being so pass-centric? Other teams got guys that rush, and everyone knows you're going to throw the ball, 2 out of your 3 downs. So you just have to kind of figure out a way to, I don't know if scheming is the right word, but just there's always going to be that element of pressure. I feel like people are expecting this utopia nirvana of just he's never going to get breathed on. There's going to be these huge holes to run through. I'm just trying to kind of taper expectations. But I do feel, looking at this offensive line, I do look at the experience that they have. To your point, like maybe not in years, but in terms of reps, that it's hard to imagine that this offense won't look considerably better. If not for anything else, that this offensive line will be better at the point of attack. So I would
hope there aren't many people listening to this that think that Jordan Travis isn't going to get touched, or the lanes are going to be, the running lanes are going to be like, the beer aisle at our grocery store. Are those wider? Those are wider than normal, right? Or is that a bad comparison?
I feel like the one at my Publix is a little bit more narrow.
The beer is?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
See, the one up here, it's like it's 2 aisles turned into 1 aisle.
Oh.
And it's beer on one side and wine on the other, but it's a big aisle.
Yeah.
Magazine aisle, would that have been better? Is the magazine aisle a little bit bigger normally?
Maybe like an interstate or something. I don't know, like a
there you go.
highway.
Yeah, you can tell I don't spend much time in grocery stores, which I should.
And you don't spend that much time on the road either, do you? Huh?
No, that's true. Good point.
Got it.
Solid. No, I don't think anybody's expecting this line to be incredible. I think, so many times in recent years, and again, it was better this year. Not great. There were still moments, but so many times, you brought up Florida State's defensive line and how they were pretty good against everybody, and they were. But Florida State, it seemed like, made everybody at times look like they had a Jermaine Johnson. Like, okay, it's one thing to give up sacks to Jermaine Johnson. Yeah, he might be a first-round pick. He's really good. He's the player of the year in the conference. It's another thing to give up a sack to a guy that had one all season, and he's dominating you. Or you don't block on a huge 3rd and 4, he just runs right by you or pushes you into Jordan's legs. It's those things that have to stop, I think. And the running attack for the most part was pretty good, right? It's hard to know though. Like, okay, is that because the line was just doing an incredible job, or is it because of what you have at 13 at quarterback, and he opens up running lanes just because he's another running back himself? It's hard to know, but yeah, the offensive line was average last year at worst. Most people say average at best, Aslan. This guy went average at worst.
I like it.
So you got to assume it's going to be better. I know they lost DLT, but he wasn't himself anyway last year. So that's not – it was a big loss from 2020 DLT, but 2021 DLT, we love you, buddy. That wasn't a huge loss, at least physicality-wise, physical-wise, the actual playing of the game. So, yeah, man, you just expect them to be better. You expect everything to be better. It has to be. Yeah. Your offensive line should be better. You got bigger, better bodies, and you got more of them. And then obviously what you got in receiver, the quarterback should be taking a step up. Running back is a question mark, but they still should be good enough to score some touchdowns, and if there are lanes there to run through them. So yeah, I think overall the offense should be, let's hope, a touchdown better.
Better than the 2015, 2016 Dalvin Cook offensive lines, you think?
Yeah, man.
On par.
It's hard to know, right? Like, it's hard to know because of Dalvin. It really is. Like, Dalvin didn't get all those yards himself. Whatever it was, 3,000 yards over those 2 years. He didn't get all of them himself, but sometimes it felt like he did. And but that's not fair. I mean, those guys did open up holes. Some of those Clemson runs, he did go around the edge, and there was nobody there. So yeah, you hope it's better than like the 2015, 2016 version.
Yeah.
Because even that 16 version, like late in games, when it was an obvious throwing down, sometimes it really felt like Francois had no chance. And you look at the
last drive
Michigan
against
game,
Clemson, really no
chance. Yeah, they got down to the 30, and then it was like 3 straight sacks, and then but then Dalvin ran for whatever he ran for, so they weren't terrible. And then the Michigan game, I think Francois was like 9 of 27 in that game.
Yeah.
Was kind of running for his life because that was a really good defense. That was a stacked Michigan defense. But, I mean, they gave him enough time to find Nooney in the end zone, didn't they?
This is true. They did. Yeah, I mean, part of me was just wondering, this whole 10-win sort of created, man-made barometer of success. You just kind of think
that's an Aslan made.
It is.
Come on, Aslan made?
Is.
Okay.
It is. Well, I mean, we talked about it beforehand, too, before I even existed, or at least in this universe of talk radio, podcasting, or whatever. I feel like you guys are talking about in headlines and 16 and 17 lamenting things. Well, yeah, we've got 10 wins. We're not going to get 10 wins this year. That's not good. But how much of it just obviously was Dalvin those years? And there's, do you need to have that first-round NFL draft pick somewhere? Probably either quarterback or running back to be able to have the offensive success that they did in 16 and 15. And I don't know how efficient they were, but, man, they still won football games. That defense was much better in 15 than they were in 16. But there is no first-round draft pick on this team right now. I don't think so. But maybe just incrementally everybody just a little bit better helps compensate for what you don't have. That is like a Dalvin Cook. Because I don't even know who the running back situation is going to work out to. I think we like Trayshawn Ward. We like Lawrence Toafili. DJ Williams has some tools, but there isn't like that obvious slam dunk difference maker. But again, if everybody can get 1% better, right, Corey? That's what it's all about. If everybody's get 1% better. Yeah,
and Trayshawn Ward was the real deal, man. He averaged whatever he averaged, 6.4. He averaged more yards per carry than Corbin, and he averaged more yards per catch than Corbin. I mean, he's a good player. And Toafili, at least at the end of the season, seemed like a different guy. So those two guys, I feel like you know what you have in them, right? Like Toafili, maybe he hasn't quite shown what his ability is, but I think Ward has. And Ward showed he's proven he's a good college running back. He's certainly solid, and got a little special, tackle breaking ability. He just runs violently, so he's got that to him. Toafili's got a little bit of special sauce in there too. We'll see with DJ Williams. We'll see, and then Trey Benson. We'll see. Yeah. That guy's let's see what he looks like in the spring. That big and that fast, what he was supposedly before he went out to Oregon. Let's see if that materializes on the practice fields in Tallahassee, and then you might feel really good about 3 running backs. Or not really good. You might feel good about 3 running backs. I don't think you need a first-round pick necessarily to be a 10-win team on the offense, but you do need a game changer. And, some game changers get drafted in the 4th round, the 6th round, they don't get drafted at all. You need a dude that will change the game where you don't have to script every yard he gets. He goes and makes plays, special plays, a game changer. Rashad Green. Rashad Green was like, a 5th-round pick. So
yeah, but just
do they have somebody like that?
Extremely prolific. I still don't think they have anybody that's going to be that. No one's going out there and catching 80 passes next year, right? I wouldn't think so.
No, they have too many guys. No, I don't think there's like one. I don't think he plays like that. I don't think they'll throw enough for one guy to have 80 catches. But I do think that production, not numbers wise, but man, if you catch 40 passes. Like Cam McDonald, I'm not trying to rip on Cam McDonald. I like that kid, and I think he's a solid tight end. But how many catches did he make last year where he turned a 6-yard pass into a 25-yard catch? That's what I'm talking about. Guys like that. Like if Cam McDonald caught a 12-yard pass, it usually went for 12 yards, which is fine. That's a first down. Or he caught a little screen pass and there was nobody there. He make one guy miss maybe. How many can make those special plays where you make 4 guys miss? Like and we always look at it through the lens of Florida State and tackles that are missed instead of breaking tackles. But the play Shipley made at the end of the Clemson game.
Right. Yeah.
That wasn't a great play call. That was just a good player making a really good play, and Florida State needs more of that. So yeah, there you go. There's your analysis. Florida State needs more 5-star skill players.
Elite.
There you go, gang.
Thoughts on this, Corey, over on the warchant.com Tribal Council, which, by the way, as we do these position previews, we're also incorporating your thoughts into the stories that Ira and Corey, I don't know if Austin's doing some of these too. Austin, we're keeping him busy. But feel free to share your thoughts. We're soliciting your opinions on the quarterbacks right now, but I was checking out the message board, and there was a thread about college football expansion or thoughts on it. Somebody posted a link, Corey, and it was actually penned by the commissioner of the AAC, the American Athletic Conference. Our own .com, Gene Williams, responded to. That's why I bring this up, because if Gene's posting on the Tribal Council about something, it commands discussion here on the podcast. But Gene's saying, I guess the crux of, I think it might be Mike Oresco. I don't know who the commissioner is. I can't actually.
That sounds right. That could be right.
Okay.
It's definitely a name. That's definitely a name that could be right.
Yeah. Basically, I think was advocating on, let's help lift everybody. We're all in this together, kind of all 130 of us or all 80 of us. You Power 5 plus us Group of 5. To which Gene was saying, I hope everybody realizes that, the commissioner wrote this kind of thing. And the last thing that we should do, I'm paraphrasing some of this, I'm not going to read it word for word, but was saying not to focus on the lesser programs, which I don't think we have been championing on the show. Not that Gene's criticizing us for what we do on the show. But Gene's saying out of 130 FBS teams, only 6 to 8 have a realistic shot at winning a title. Probably only 40 to 50 are relevant or have a chance of becoming relevant. Everybody else should be dropped to a lower division. And then us 40 to 50 need to come up with some kind of revenue sharing model and or salary caps. Sport desperately needs parity. That's not going to happen by trying to boost up teams in the bottom third of the sport at the expense of the rest. To which I guess, does that torpedo my thought? And I won't happen, but I think I saw somebody mentioning this elsewhere. I feel like with a salary cap being, it's easy for us to say have a salary cap because we've seen it in professional sports. But professional sports, their salary cap is all based on like your salary. I mean, I know that sounded silly, Aslan, but basically it's all coming from your employer.
It's based on your salary, and then they cap it.
Yes, like the New York Yankees are writing a paycheck to you. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the Atlanta Hawks, they're the employer, the owner writes you your check. With so many different NLI opportunities and all these different people trying to help things out, I wonder how is it easier? Wouldn't it be easier, I should ask Corey, if they just cap scholarships at like 65?
Oh, boy.
I know that sounds crazy. No, like the coaches wouldn't go for it. I don't know how much power they wield in this. Probably a lot. But that way, if you cap the scholarships, doesn't that sort of clean up the NLI stuff? Or NIL, sorry. I'm going to get it wrong. I need
Keep
push-ups.
making that mistake. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough initials. It's ridiculous. No, there's no other NIL, NLI. Those, especially N and L, are very
why
rarely
does it start with
used in
the
initials.
Why does it have to be name, image, and likeness? Why can't it be image, likeness, and name? Like,
Yeah.
why are we ILN? We'll never
ILN is easy. We would never make that mistake.
Never.
ILN. We all know what it means. Just you're right.
I don't know.
Swirl the letters around a little bit.
Yeah, but if you only had like 65 scholarships to then chase and throw money at people, I won't even have to, I don't think you'd have to worry about a salary cap. I think that is that not the cleanest, easiest way to do this?
Well, yeah, but that won't happen. They won't cut it down to 20 more scholarships. There's a lot of ways to get parity. I think the salary cap he's talking about is for coaching. I would hope, I would think. And I don't think you need a salary cap. It's funny, this came up on headlines and I was called a socialist. Well, basically because somebody asked this, if we were czar of FBS for a year, what would we do?
Which you're campaigning for. Your campaign continues.
Yes. And I would say I would go to all Power 5 conferences because I have the power. I'm the czar. They've elected me. All 5 conferences, you total up the revenue from each conference all into one pool, and then you split it evenly among the 5 conferences. So, whatever that ends up being, $1.4 billion that you're splitting up among 60 teams or 50 teams, whatever you deem your Power 5 to be, that's what you do. And then, somebody's like, it's socialism on the chat. And I'm like, man, then the NFL is socialist because that's exactly what they do. All you're doing is you have a league, if it's 60 teams, you have a league that's twice as big as the NFL. But you can still use the NFL as the blueprint. And the blueprint is, if you want competitive balance, if you want parity, you can't have Vanderbilt making $56 million a year and Oklahoma State making $30 million. You just can't. And that's another thing. It's like, so you're going to take the schools that earn the money and give it to the schools that don't. Yeah, like Alabama to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has never earned one single penny in football. Not one. God, they have done nothing for the sport. Nothing. Not Jay Cutler. What's their greatest contribution to football? I think that might be it, and that ain't a good one. Nobody watches Vanderbilt. Nobody cares about Vanderbilt. They make $55 million on the back of Bama and Georgia and everybody else. So call it socialism, call it whatever. Anyway, the point being, you've got to raise up the parity. You've got to raise up the competitive balance. And yeah, I don't think you could do it for all 130 schools, but I think because look, man, Akron, Ball State, USF, schools like that, they are not going to compete for national championships. They don't have the same, most of them don't have the same fan base, history, tradition. They've never really given much to the sport. So no, they shouldn't be getting the money that Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, and Oregon and teams like that produce. I don't think.
Well, hey, USF's been in the top 5. But Vanderbilt never has.
Well, that's true. USF did have that for a couple weeks. That's true. Vanderbilt's never even. I mean, it's preposterous. It's preposterous. They should give their money back. It's ridiculous. Or give it to charities in the Nashville area. They're not using it. They're certainly not using that $55 million on football. So give it to people that can use it. Start up some high-speed rail, Aslan, from Nashville to Atlanta. That'd be nice.
My language.
So anyway, that's what that's the only thing that can save the sport. As long as there continues to be a huge disparity between teams that are supposed to be on equal footing, all competing for the same thing, and Power 5 schools are. They're all supposed to be in the same boat competing for a national championship. One school gets $25 million more than another school every year. It doesn't, if you just made the TV revenue, everybody's getting $39 million a year. Well, then you don't need a salary cap. The market kind of corrects itself. Yeah, go ahead and give Nick Saban $41 million every 2 years. You only got so much amount of money. But, it doesn't matter with them now. Like, Alabama can pay Nick Saban $25 million a year. They still have more. If Alabama paid Nick Saban $22 million a year to coach per year, they would still clear more money than Florida State does. Just in football TV revenue. Just in TV revenue. So that's a huge problem. That's the biggest problem. And it's just going to get wide. The gap's going to get wider and wider, and that's what's so scary. And it's like nobody will. I don't know what you do. I don't know who could do it. There's nobody that could do it. And why would the SEC do it?
That's what I was going to.
They wouldn't share it. You'd have to. So it's never going to happen.
Send it to Congress.
It'd be nice.
It's got to go to Congress, right?
Because again, people might think it's socialism or it's not fair. Blah blah blah. Man, the Cowboys and the Bills make the same amount of money, the exact same dollar figure in TV revenue.
How about the Jags? Not to pick our Duval.
There you go.
People in Buffalo.
There you go. That's a much better example. Yeah. The Cowboys and the Jags make the same exact dollar figure for TV revenue every year. Who do you think gets more eyeballs? Who do you think gets more? The Dallas Cowboys are 10 times as popular as the Jaguars.
But isn't it a little easier to subsidize 4 or 5 bottom feeders? Again, sorry, Jacksonville's in the AFC Championship game like 4 years ago. Much love and respect to Duval. Shout out. But isn't it a lot easier to subsidize a 32-team league where? I mean, I don't know, even in the AFL, NFL merger days, I don't know how much, probably some sense of parity, as opposed to like a 65-team layout,
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's more teams, but you're also, the NFC
But the thing,
East
though, is like Purdue and Illinois are so far away from Alabama and Oklahoma.
But they're not any farther away than Vanderbilt and Kentucky. And quite frankly, the Mississippi schools have never done anything. Done anything. Never accomplished anything of note since integration.
Ole Miss has been in 2 Sugar Bowls in the last 5 years.
Come on, man. All right, so's Utah.
6 years.
Utah's been in Sugar Bowls. I'm talking about historical moments, ratings, fandom. They don't move the needle at all, but they still get the same amount of money as Georgia and Alabama.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? Yes, that is part of the problem. I mean, look, man, the Pirates get a lot of money for being awful. That's what a lot of this lockout is about, because it doesn't seem like they're spending their money when they get a lot of money. But yeah, the beauty about the NFL, man, is there's no small markets. They all have a chance to win. I don't think that would carry over to college football, where literally, I bet in our lifetimes, it has to be in our lifetimes, every single NFL team has been in the playoff. Probably multiple times. And there's probably been, 20, 25 teams that have played in the Super Bowl in our lifetimes. I'm not saying there will be that much parity in college football where all of a sudden, instead of, 6 teams competing for a national championship, it becomes 60. But I bet there's at least 2 teams in every conference, if they're on equal footing financially with the SEC and the Big Ten, that, they might raise their game up and they might actually have a chance to compete for a title. But, I think that could happen. I think you're talking about the difference of, 6 teams competing for a title, literally having a chance to win the title every year. And let's say we go to a 12-team playoff. And so at that point, you have 22 teams probably that can go into a season thinking 25 maybe, that have a realistic shot of making the playoff. Well, now bump that up to 40 or 35 in the next 10 years as they get on more and more equal footing. I think that's just better for the sport, man. The NFL, it's just impossible to believe that college football looks how popular the NFL is, how unbelievably popular it continues to be. Every year it gets bigger and bigger. And they're doing the exact opposite with their sport. Instead of being inclusive, so everybody, every fan base, every coach, every owner, every player feels like he has a chance to go play for a Super Bowl in a matter of a couple years, the college football has narrowed the gap to where there's 5 teams that have a real shot. It's like, this is awful for your sport. And it'd be cool if somebody did something about it. But what can you do? Money talks. The SEC ain't giving any of it back. The only way it happens is if somebody at ESPN that makes deals and somebody at Fox Sports that makes deals decides this is what's best for the sport and this is what I'm going to do. But that's not going to happen.
I just wonder how much of it, too, is, we'll keep using the Jacksonville example. I mean, I don't know. There's got to be over 1 million people in the Jacksonville metro area, I would think, versus like West Lafayette. I mean, you want to talk about the NFL and what they're doing in terms of eyeballs, revenue. Like, you would have to sell like the SEC on the fact that, like, listen, if we do make this more equitable for everybody to where there's a chance, for more than just us 6 to win the national title every year, that's going to bring in more money for all of us. And if we can just figure out a way to spread that evenly. But I just don't know, like, if Purdue all of a sudden becomes a power, I mean, like, West Lafayette is not exactly bubbling over with eyeballs and television sets. And like Purdue, I mean, you can look at their alumni base. There's not as many people in the country that have Purdue degrees as people that live in Jacksonville and want to root for Jacksonville because it's their hometown team. So I just want to ask Michael Alford.
I get what you're saying.
I just want to ask Michael Alford. And it's not him, but like the boosters, not even Seminole boosters, but just the overall industrial football complex of colleges laments just how expensive it is to pay for these scholarships for these football players. Like to fully fund a scholarship, to endow it, is just an astronomical figure. It's like, all right, well then let's just limit it then. Like, and I know coaches won't go for it because they're like, well, player health, we need more. But no, you don't. I mean, NFL pulls this off with 53 and they play 4 more games, maybe even 6 more games than you if you make it to the Super Bowl. They're figuring it out. They play a much more physical brand of football than you guys do. But just maybe somehow in all this, the universities can win out. Maybe if the presidents and the chancellors can somehow collude to be like, all right, let's figure out a way to limit the scholarships because we'll save money as a university. We won't have to spend all this 20 less scholarships we have to fund. That's a huge expenditure that levels the playing field. But, whatever. If I was married to Taylor Swift, I'd be a millionaire or something. So that's easy to say that, but it's not.
I bet she's got to be close to $1 billion, right?
Well, probably. I don't even
know how much money.
Taylor, I don't even want your money. I'll sign the prenup. I don't even care. I don't want your money. I just want you.
Well, don't do that. I'm going to advise you against that. Although, look, that lifestyle for 8 to 10 years, however long the marriage would last, would be pretty sweet either way. Yeah. And you'd become an influencer just by being married to her. Yeah. So then you start getting your own revenue stream anyway. Yeah. But so like what's her name, the Kardashian, she's worth like $1 billion.
Apparently, yeah. The makeup brand.
Right, but she doesn't act, doesn't sing, right. Doesn't really have, doesn't play a sport, doesn't really have a noticeable talent. I'm talking about like that most people who have that kind of following and that kind of money do. But she became an influencer, quote unquote, and became a brand name and a recognizable name, and now she's made a ton of money selling the name. So Aslan, you could do that. But I say that you have more talent. You're a talented guy. I didn't mean to compare you to a Kardashian.
Maybe we should go off the sales bit. Maybe we should go after the Kardashians. I mean, Sarah Blakely and Spanx. aren't answering our overtures, why not just go for Kim?
Kim or Chloe? Is there another one besides those two?
There's one that makes even more, like the younger one. Kendall Jenner. I think she might have more juice than all of them now.
And what does she do?
She's
a rock star?
No, she's just attractive.
Okay, well, good for her.
God bless this country.
Yeah.
Love it.
I tell you what, man, a lot of opportunities out there for folks. I mean, it helps that your dad is like a millionaire lawyer that represented O.J. Simpson, but still,
her father. That's Kendall Jenner. Her father's
former decathlete. Yeah. So, but I was talking about the Kardashians.
Right,
but
right,
it's great. What a marriage there.
Yeah. All right, we did it. We put a show together for you folks in the middle of February. That's very Florida State centric.
Hey, I'm gonna break some news here. I didn't tell you. I don't think you know this, but maybe you do because I didn't do the offensive line video. That I actually went to the ER on Sunday night after we recorded the podcast.
I have no idea. I mean, I thought are you okay?
I appear to be okay, but I had some really bad stomach pains, like really bad. Like I've gotten them.
This has been a thing for you, though, right? Your GI stuff.
I've always had some GI stuff, but the last 2 years, I never really had. My GI stuff was more like
Let's not
heartburn.
go too graphic. Okay, right,
I won't. It was more like reflux.
Okay.
This was an actual stomach ache, and I've been having them for the last 2 years.
Oh, your tummy ache, huh? Your tummy ache.
I know.
Corey, huh?
For like every 3 or 4 months, I'd have one, and usually it would be really hard to sleep. But I'd take some Advil or Tylenol or something. I'd finally get to bed. Well, that didn't work this time. And at 4:15 in the morning, I was like, "This is impossible. I can't live like this. I can't think about anything else. I can't sleep. I need to get this taken care of." So I went. I woke Brady up at 4:15 in the morning. He had no idea what was going on. He thought he was getting ready for school.
Poor kid.
And I said, "No, man, we're going to Mama's." He's like, "What day is it?" I'm like, I told him like I got to go to the ER. So I'm going to drop you off at Mama's. And then he was worried about me. I'm like, no, man, I'm sure it's fine. It's just a bad stomach ache. And that's the first time I've ever, luckily, knock on wood, I've lived a charmed life. That's the first time I've ever had to go to an ER for something like that.
How was the experience? How long did you wait?
Man, I'm telling you, because of the time of day and maybe the location, I literally walked in and never sat down.
Nice.
Like I put in my name.
Georgia, let's go.
She's like, well, go sit in the waiting area, and the nurse will be back in a second. And I'm like, well, do I have to sit because that hurts? She's like, no, stand up, it's fine. And then literally right when I said that, the guy came over and took me over and took my weight and blood pressure and all that. And then I went back and started waiting.
Gallstones or HIPAA?
Well, we don't know yet. It wasn't. They did a CAT scan, CT scan, and nothing came up. Nothing bad came up for that.
All right, good. So no
he thought it could have just been irritation. Man, it's a Super Bowl party, and I just beat up my stomach to death.
Gosh.
Chili, ribs, pork, dip, a bunch of different kinds of dip, buffalo chicken dip, like 4 beers, nothing crazy, but 4 beers. Maybe a donut, some Girl Scout cookies. I mean, I threw it all down.
Unbelievable. What are you?
Oh, I know.
Just
glutton. I get on to Brady for the way he eats sometimes. He's like eating so much he's made himself throw up. And I feel like I did that. But anyway, so that was a fun experience to go to the ER at 4:30 in the morning, get home at 6:30. The pain was still so bad that I didn't get to bed till like 10 a.m. It was a tough go, but I think I'm better now, man. My stomach feels fine now. And I had a couple burritos early today, and they went down fine.
This is what happens when you stop eating Zaxby's. You got to get them back on.
No, that's not true. I ate Zaxby's last night, actually. That was
you're back.
I got my Cobb salad. I feel perfectly fine. So there you go, folks. If you're having GI problems, eat Zaxby's.
Did you go on your walk? Have you been walking more? I thought we were supposed to work out. What happened with you and me working out? I got a membership for you.
Oh, no, I was going to go to another maybe I'll do that. You didn't get me a membership. But I am going to work out. I'm starting to work out. I'm actually going to go get a consultation next week when I'm in town to see what I got. I want to –
What, the guy that's training Ira or somebody else? And
yes,
listen,
that guy.
My membership at my gym allows me to bring a free guest every single time I go to the gym. So.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, so what I would like to have is a game plan. Like, this is what I want. This is my target weight. This is how ripped I want to be.
Right. Brad Pitt Fight Club. Kind of
probably something like that. I was thinking like that. Maybe even like, you remember that D'Angelo video?
How does it feel? Yeah. Jeez.
Maybe that. So yeah, I got some work to do, but I'm about to do it, and then I'm going to get my stomach figured out, and I'm going to live for another 55 years.
All right. Very well. That means several more podcasts on the way for all you folks, and columns.
You lucky folks.
Quarterback preview coming up soon on warchant.com as we get ready for spring football. Again, that starts March 5th. Can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We'll do another one of these for you folks probably tomorrow, maybe on Friday.
Oh, I forgot the ER story, though. The one that was the best was I went in for a stomach problem, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know why necessarily I had to get an EKG. I guess they just do it because, hey, it might be a heart
charge
issue
to the game. They just want to get paid.
It's part of the
everything.
But it basically became the scene out of 40-Year-Old Virgin, because they taped those things to my chest, in my stomach, and my side, but they're tape to hook up the vitals.
Yeah.
It's like she didn't even see. Okay, this guy might have a little more hair on his chest than the normal person. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to slam it on in there. And when I rip it off, I'm just going to rip it off. Not even thinking. And
so
the first one,
4 or 6 of them. I mean, they put a lot of them.
It was 12.
Whoa.
I counted. And then finally, she did the first one, and I went ripped it off, and I went. And she's like, "Oh, do you want me to do it slow or like a Band-Aid?" And I'm like, "Just go." And so for the next 55 seconds, it was just me grimacing as she ripped off more and more hair. So that was fun. If I'd have known that, I would have shaved before I went to if I'd have known I was getting an EKG, I would have shaved before I went to the hospital.
Oh, gosh.
Good times. Good to be Corey Clark sometimes.
And I think I herniated a disc a few weeks ago, too. We're falling apart over here. We got to get back playing tennis.
You're right.
Stop playing tennis, we stop getting active, and all these sort of bad things happen. Body's the temple, everybody. Treat it right. Again, we'll drop another one of these for you later this week. Post your questions over on the Tribal Council, the Renegade Express. That's what we shall do. And stay connected to warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Jeff Cameron coming up 1 to 3 o'clock. He's Corey Amazon. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.